Brought down by bad mortgage investments, Lehman, which has 25,000 employees, will be liquidated.
The federal government loans American International Group, AIG, $85 billion.
This is a different kind of market, and the Fed is asleep.
The federal government is stepping in to stabilize Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the two mortgage giants that have been threatened by the housing crisis.
The Bank of England has pumped £75 billion more into Britain's ailing economy with a new round of quantitative easing.
You print a couple $1 trillion, and all of a sudden, people start to worry. So out of this worry, we have something called the Bitcoin.
Welcome to On the Brink. I'm Matt Walsh.
And I'm Nick Carter.
And this episode is brought to you by Coin Metrics, and here is the Metrics Minute.
All right, this Metrics Minute, we're looking at a joint research report by Coin Metrics and Bitcoin Suisse. Bitcoin's liquid supply surged to 6 million, or 30% of the total supply as of summer 23, with 4 million units of Bitcoin not moving for over 5 years. 1.8 million Bitcoins have literally never moved. So long-term holder confidence is pretty much at an all-time high. When you compare Bitcoin and Ether, Ethereum shows a larger portion of supply actively circulating as opposed to Bitcoin. This kind of makes sense given ETH's use as DeFi collateral and a medium of exchange for NFTs. USDC, on the other hand, has only 10% of its supply held for over a year. 90% frequently changes hands. More on the supply dynamics in this joint report from Coin Metrics and Bitcoin Suisse. That's your Metrics Minute.
Good Metrics Minute there. So huge podcast week, head of state on the podcast. You sat down with the premier of Bermuda, David Burt, talked about Bermuda's approach to digital asset regulation, and then he tweeted about you. He tweeted a picture.
He put a picture. I mean, so it was pretty funny. I mean, I went to the office, the Bermuda White House, basically. I forgot what it's called. I think the Cabinet Building. And there's a photographer who snapped photos of us doing the interview the whole time.
It was an excellent interview. The guy's all in on digital assets.
Yeah, no, the premiere is great, and Bermuda is really kicking off as a domicile both for large crypto companies and for startups, especially with an emphasis on stable coins. Now you'll see more stables issued out of Bermuda. I think they're getting the attention they deserve. They've been more conservative. There were questions for a while as to why Bermuda didn't land FTX and Bahamas did. They have a bit of a rivalry in why Bahamas landed FTX. I think their more conservative posture was very much vindicated, obviously. And they have a really sophisticated regulator through the reinsurance business on the island. It's a big hub of reinsurance. So whatever they're doing, it's working. And listen more about it in that episode I did with David Burt.
They do look very smart for not taking FTX. It sounds like FTX was looking at Bermuda as one of their final locations and settled on the Bahamas, but very smart move.
I will note that David Burt is not the head of state because technically Bermuda is a British territory, I believe.
Really?
Part of the UK.
Okay, but
he is the head of the government. I'll give you credit.
Yeah, he's the head of the government. That's an island by itself. He's in charge of it.
Very much by itself. Very strange place. Very cool.
I would love to go.
You'll get we just got to do more deals there.
More deals in Bermuda.
That's the ticket. Yeah.
All right, let's do it. All right, well, it was a busy deal week. Let's start off. Virgo Group, which is a Canadian crypto exchange, they raised $5 million from Waterdrip Capital, Skyline, Nextport, and others. Canadian crypto exchanges, talk about just, having a bad run.
It's an interesting bet because Canadian crypto exchanges are very heavily regulated now.
As they should be.
Because of
Quadriga.
A lot of exchanges quit Canada because they found the requirements too burdensome. And then most of the big exchanges in Canada all merge with each other.
Yeah.
So
there's been a lot of consolidation.
It takes a lot of guts to try and compete with that, especially given the regulatory barriers to entry and the very consolidated monolith.
Well, Canadians are tough people.
Next up, we have Squads Labs, a developer of multi-sig products on Solana. They raised $5.7 million from Placeholder, Multicoin, Solana Ventures, and Jump.
Then we have Sin Futures. This is a perpetual futures exchange, a decentralized one. They raised $22 million from Pantera, Susquehanna, and Hashkey.
Then we've got MyShell, a Web3 AI platform. What that means, I couldn't tell you. They raised $5.6 million from Hashkey, Folius, and OP Crypto.
Next one up is Fileverse. This is a Web3 file management system. They raised $1.5 million from Gnosis Chain and Factor.
Then we have Elixir, a decentralized market-making protocol. They raised $7.5 million from HackVC, NGC, Blockcelerate, and AngelList.
Then it's Darewise, a Web3 gaming platform. They raised $3.5 million in a token sale to Animoca and GameFi.
Next up, BitGo has acquired Height Zero, a crypto wealth management platform.
That's a pretty interesting one. But these TAMP platforms, these asset management turnkey platforms, definitely will be a big feature of the crypto market. And then the last one up is the DTCC has acquired Securrency for $50 million. Securrency is one of these enterprise blockchain tokenization plays. So that's kind of interesting to me. DTCC is a consortium, so it's owned by its members and historically has not been very acquisitive. So $50 million doesn't seem like a lot in the grand scheme of things in terms of a big kind of buyout acquisition. But for a consortium, that's a pretty meaningful step. So my guess is that there's going to be a bunch more tokenization of real world assets on the horizon there.
So I don't know where to start this week. I mean, the ETF chatter is never ending. It seems to be heating up from an already very active position. What's going on with the ETF?
I don't know. The ETF, I'm getting the feeling that this is going to happen in a pretty meaningful way. So there seems to be a lot going on behind the scenes. So last Friday, the time elapsed where the SEC could appeal their loss to Grayscale on the Administrative Procedures Act. So they decided not to appeal. Now, what happens now to Grayscale is totally unclear to me. And there's a lot of back and forth with lawyers on this. It's not that they just automatically get approved as an ETF. But Grayscale has filed an S3 to list their GBTC product under the 33 Act. So it's not like a net new Bitcoin ETF application, but this is interesting, and the SEC will definitely have to react to it. But then you're starting to see some of these other sponsors that have filed for these ETFs put amendments forth and update their prospectus. So Fidelity put out an amendment. ARK and 21 Shares, who have a joint application, they also amended their proposal. You know, it's adding details. It's adding details around like risk of Bitcoin mining consuming a lot of electricity and stuff like that. It's adding some details around how custody works. So the impression I have from reading these amendments is that there's back and forth happening with the SEC and these sponsors. And then Gensler gave an interview to Bloomberg where he said that the agency is working with 8 to 10 sponsors and they're back and forth on their proposals. And the language was interesting. He said it is a security, it's packaging up this Bitcoin, which is a commodity, into a security. So he was almost like laying the foundation for here's why we're going to approve it if you read between the lines. So I don't know. My sense here is that by the January ARK 21 Shares deadline, I actually think we're going to have a Bitcoin spot ETF.
Yeah, I think it's very safe to say that it will be by or within Q1 of next year.
Now there was a big rumor this week. What was that, Monday that happened? Did you see that? It was like Cointelegraph tweeted out that BlackRock has been approved and Bitcoin just ripped for like 90 seconds there.
So we got a preview of the rally, the ETF rally, which appears to be, 10%? So now we know.
I guess, but Bitcoin's up 5% this week. So maybe there won't be as big of a huge spike when this is finally approved. It seems like information is trickling out and the market is factoring in that there will be a Bitcoin ETF. Nick, markets are efficient. I don't know if you are aware of that.
I mean, the fact that markets reacted to this headline doesn't mean that they're not efficient.
I know. It's a Bitcoin halving reference.
Right. So, the funny, I don't know if it's funny, kind of tragic thing about Grayscale's ETF application is they may win this long battle, but it might be a completely Pyrrhic victory because at the same time, they may be in bankruptcy. or
or
worse.
their parent company. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
DCG.
the New York. So what you're referring to is the New York Attorney General's office today. So we're recording on a Thursday. Has sued Gemini, Genesis, DCG, as well as a number of individuals that were affiliated with those companies in relation to allegedly defrauding customers stemming from the mount down of the Genesis lending operation. There's a pretty long complaint, I would say. What's your take on this?
I read it. It's pretty damning, actually. So the thrust of the complaint is that Gemini misrepresented the risk of their earned product to their clients, to the people depositing into that product, while they were having knowledge of information that the people that they were themselves lending to were not creditworthy, aka Genesis. And so they basically, the complaint is that Gemini lied about how safe the investments were, while knowing that basically Genesis was losing money and getting hit by 3 arrows in Alameda and things like that. So that's the Gemini complaint. The Genesis complaint is more complex, but also has to do with the fact that they basically misrepresented their solvency to Gemini. And the one, I don't want to say smoking gun, but the one really bad thing I would say that's in the complaint is this promissory note that Genesis used to shore up their balance sheet after they took a huge loss to, I think it was to 3 arrows.
Yeah.
And so they had a huge hole in their balance sheet from Babel Finance and 3 arrows. And they created this accounting fiction to fill the hole, which was this loan from a related party, from DCG to Genesis, 10-year loan, 1% rate of interest. So kind of an off-market loan from a related party. So that didn't really fill the hole, obviously, but in an accounting sense it did. Because then they were able to take the newly repaired Genesis balance sheet and show that to third parties, including Gemini. And now the hole was somewhere else, which was opaque to the third parties. Okay, it was with DCG itself. And there's a line that I'll quote here, which is, I think, the crux of it. Quote, starting in July 2022 and continuing multiple times per week until November 22, Genesis Capital provided reports to Gemini that listed the value of Genesis Capital's, quote, current assets. Now, a current asset is one that can be reduced to cash or cash equivalents within the course of 1 year. These reports fraudulently categorize the promissory note as a current asset, even though it's payable 10 years later. So basically, they misrepresented the nature of this promissory note and its accounting status. And that, to me, is a very clear and evident kind of piece of wrongdoing. So I have no idea what's going to happen here. I don't even know what recourse is being sought, really, whether it's fines or something worse. But having read this, I think it looks really, really tough for both Genesis and Gemini, frankly.
So it's kind of an interesting case because all of this was sort of in the open, right? Everyone in the industry knew, and it was public information that there was the promissory note from the parent. I guess the new information, at least in this filing, but has come out before, is around just the accounting definition of it. And my guess is that the argument on the DCG side would be, well, we could have made that a current asset if we had to. We would have just liquidated a bunch of Bitcoin, probably could have like wound down GBTC and liquidated that. So it'll be interesting to see what the rebuttal is there. But I don't know if this is like a smoking gun, in my opinion. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's also weird because the complaint seeks to get, disgorgement of ill-gotten gains. There's no ill-gotten gains.
No, it's not. These guys aren't like. It's say what you will about DCG and Genesis. It's like none of these people like ran off with money and are living in Bali right now. It's like these guys were genuinely trying to operate a business.
And to be clear, I know a lot of the people that worked at Genesis or in the past, and I really feel for them because this is a very tough situation. Genesis itself is basically done. Like, it's not operating anymore.
Yeah, it's not operating. And that was really that would have been the only way to like make this money back for Gemini earn customers, is to keep some semblance of Genesis up and running, try to keep this together, and then start to pay back or do some sort of an equity deal with DCG. But now that's looking less likely.
Yeah, I mean, so there's no ill-gotten gains, so I don't really know what the recourse sought is going to be, just barring the principals from engaging in securities transactions in New York, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, I do worry that this is going to be one of those things that tips DCG itself into just dissolution. I wouldn't be surprised if 3 months from now DCG basically had been sold off for parts.
It's possible. I mean, there are definitely some valuable parts there. So we'll see what happens. We'll be monitoring that one. But all in the drama of the crypto industry, huh? This is just another thing.
I think I've said this on the show before, but the events of the last 18 months make me feel like I figuratively feel like I'm in an artillery bombardment. I know it's not the right time to make this analogy. Feel like I'm in an artillery bombardment in a foxhole, and all my friends are in foxholes nearby, and one by one they keep getting vaporized.
Yeah, it's like a video game.
I guess we're still here, but it doesn't feel great because so many people that I like and respect have been obliterated.
Yeah,
and that's how I feel.
Said. That's well said. Yeah, I feel similarly. Well, let's talk about some of the real bad guys. FTX. So, I don't know. This case does not seem to be going well for old Sam here.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it's not even clear if he's able to mount a defense. Like, he's not even willing to testify, it seems, without some kind of jumbo dose of Adderall. Is that the problem?
Yeah, it's an interesting.
They don't make Adderall big enough.
So first they kind of started this week by saying, well, we're not sure if this is the defense now I'm speaking about. We're not sure if Sam is going to testify because he's not getting enough Adderall. So he's getting one dose of Adderall when he leaves the jail in the morning, but it's wearing off. So he's not coherent enough to testify. And then they let the jury leave the room at one point, and there was a question from the judge to the defense, when are you going to start to mount the defense and how long is it going to take? And the answer was, well, if we make a case, it would start on X date. So it seems like now they are going to, and it looks like it'll be on the 26th that maybe the defense will start, the afternoon of the 26th. But I don't know what you're going to do. I mean, it has been revealed that Sam is a complete sociopath here. I don't know what other conclusion you can arrive at other than this whole thing was fraudulent from the start, and he has convinced himself in his deluded utilitarian brain that what he was doing was actually right.
Yeah, I kind of thought there was a case to be made that maybe things started well at Alameda and FTX, and then over time, kind of the fraud developed. But it seems like from literally day one, this thing had a hole in it, and they were pilfering the assets. I mean, like it doesn't look like they meant well and it just happened to go bad. It looks like they meant ill, and the thing was rotten from the start.
Rotten from the start, and the tech didn't even really work. So there was no clawback ever. So there was no, like, the mechanism that they were going out to the CFTC and saying existed did not exist. So there was no concept of a clawback on this exchange. Obviously, the way they treated margin was completely convoluted, and they had the allow negative just to siphon money off to Alameda. But there's all sorts of other revelations here. I mean, you have Romnick out there pitching Apollo, knowing that there's a huge hole here. There's so many people in the loop on this. They had this guy, Can San, who apparently has government protection, but he got like a $3.5 million bonus from the company once it became clear he knew about the allow negative. So Sam was paying people off. It's crazy. I mean, Barbara Freed out there on email asking for $1 million donation, but put it in Nishad's name, not Sam, because of the optics. There's so many
Chinese
people.
officials. Yeah, I mean, the fact that Alameda had negative equity the whole time. The thing that astonishes me, I still can't believe it, is they were running the worst operation ever. And they still had the arrogance to go to DC and preach that it was somehow better than established ways of doing things.
Crazy.
That their risk engine was better than the CME. And he would go on TV and just brag about the quality of his risk management. I mean, it's a complete inversion of reality.
It shows you what money can buy. He had that guy Mark Wedgen, who I think was associated with the CFTC and then maybe the DTC, but he was representing the company. They got like really powerful people to represent them in Washington.
They wrote legislation that almost got passed. I mean, maybe it almost didn't get passed, but they wrote legislation that kind of made the rounds, and it kind of sucked all the air out of the room in DC for a while. Like,
it's crazy.
Man.
I don't want to hear any more of this FTX 2.0 thing. There's obviously no tech there, but it's what are you going to relaunch?
Well, fair enough. So the news from the debtors front is kind of a little convoluted as well. Looks like a 15% clawback for funds that were withdrawn in the preceding 9 days before the bankruptcy. So overall, a 90% recovery for customers, but that doesn't mean 90% of all assets. That means of all recovered assets, presumably.
Yeah, this is going to be messy, I think. So they're saying they're going to target a 90% recovery, but the way to do that is that you look at all the withdrawals that happened from 9 days up until the bankruptcy, and then you pull back 15% of that from people. So they're going to be going out to like US venture funds that have taken Solana, ETH, Bitcoin off the exchange in the week and a half before and already sent it back to their LPs.
Paid it out. Yeah.
Paid it back out. And then they're going to say, actually, we need 15% of that back. That's going to be a total mess.
I believe if you're a small fish, you're kind of exempt under a certain threshold.
Sub 250K.
Yeah, but otherwise they'll be suing people that had big withdrawals, right?
They're going to start suing individuals and funds.
Frankly, given how porous and just, shambolic the whole organization was, of course there were people that had quote-unquote inside knowledge of the pending bankruptcy. So the kind of moral justification for a clawback does make sense, right? Like there was a universe of funds and then it shrank meaningfully, and it shrank on the basis of who had insider information. So it makes sense to me that they should actually target the broader universe of funds there, including funds that went out the door shortly before the bankruptcy. Like that does make sense.
It's tough. It's going to be in litigation, I'm sure. I mean, it's definitely a good argument that, well, hey, we just, crypto exchanges, maybe there are hedge funds that are in and out of those things. So I think you could make an argument that it's just normal due course business for some of these customers. There'll definitely be lawsuits here.
Yeah. So one, clearly a lot of people knew Sam or had conduits to him or FTX principals. And so they could have asked, hey, how bad is it really? Should I withdraw? Whatever.
He would have said, keep it on, put more money on.
It's also prudent risk management when, the Alameda balance sheet is leaked to be like, okay, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So there's also a very benign story as to why you would have been pulling your funds. I mean, it's a story as old as time. Crypto exchange looks shaky, you pull your funds. We've been trained to do that.
Yeah, don't stick around for that. I mean, it's trained you on the TradFi model too. It's like
withdraw first, bank run first, ask questions later.
Exactly. So that's the FTX news. There's a bunch of interesting stuff going on just at the SEC writ large that I want to touch on here. So Elon Musk and Mark Cuban filed an amicus brief. Is it amicus or amicus?
I don't know. It's Latin. I would say amicus.
Okay. So they filed an amicus brief basically in support of an overhaul to the SEC's administrative procedures that allow for in-house judges at the SEC to preside over cases that are brought by the SEC itself that prohibit defendants from the right to a jury trial. So that has nothing to do with crypto, but those are two really high-profile people that are coming out very, very publicly that the SEC has a massive overreach in place. And it's just another data point on how that organization is being run right now.
Yeah, good for Elon signing on to that. One thing I learned from the Elon book was his law about like every regulation comes from a human being, and that human being has a name, so you should interrogate every rule and regulation.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I forgot about that part. Yeah.
I've begun putting this into practice now. When I run into a rule that doesn't make sense, I find out who created the rule. I think
it's usually someone that worked for Elizabeth Warren. Yeah, it's usually a Warren staffer that made the rule. Speaking of her, why don't you set this one up?
Oh, man. Okay, so Warren has written some horrible little missive yet again. That's what she does. That's her hobby, is writing these awful letters. It is signed by a lot of people. They're concerned about the usage of crypto to finance Hamas. This apparently is based on press coverage from the WSJ alleging that there were sort of, let's say, 90 million or so worth of Bitcoin or crypto, or generally, that had flowed into Hamas wallets. And she's basically asking the Treasury and the White House to look into this and presumably do terrible things to the crypto space. So, and this is signed by a lot of senators and representatives, like a lot. The problem is the whole thing is based on a lie. That's the problem.
It's actually completely factually inaccurate.
It's based on a gigantic fabrication.
It's just not, it's fake news. So Chainalysis, it took, by the way, we need to appoint like some industry people to be the first line of defense here. I thought that's why we had trade groups. Chainalysis came to the rescue and just did a detailed report. And turns out, what's the dollar amount that was actually sent to Hamas?
It looks like it was sub $1 million. It looks like it's in the kind of $400,000 or $500,000 range.
It's incredible. And so, can you compare that to the banking sector and all of the financing that was going into Iran via the traditional U.S. banking sector?
The funds that the United States government, literally billions of dollars that we sent to Iran. So Chainalysis looked at this. It seems like WSJ, my guess is that WSJ journalists were using Elliptic software and just got the whole thing wrong, because they credited it to Elliptic, this $90 million, $85 million figure. They credited that to Elliptic. I don't think Elliptic would make a stupid mistake like that. Basically, the mistake was conflating a intermediary, the total volume going through an intermediary, with the volume that was actually ascribed to the single entity, which had been the one that was tagged as Hamas or terrorist finance. So they were conflating a tiny subset with a much larger superset. And so they credited this to Elliptic in the WSJ. That's where this all came from. Chainalysis looked at it and they said, hang on, you are taking all the volume flowing through this entity, which looks like an exchange or some sort of OTC desk, and the real amount is much smaller, probably less than $1 million. That's a huge delta. Sub $1 million versus 85, 90 million, a huge difference. I mean, it's inexcusable, really.
It's crazy. I mean, it's really infuriating, some of the people that just blindly jumped onto this. A lot of senators and congressmen.
It caused a huge storm of the press, and it's like, I think it's so perverse. You see this slaughter that happens in the Middle East, and your first reaction is, how can I weaponize this for my anti-crypto animus?
Right.
Like, it's absolutely inhumane. It's
crazy.
It's barbaric. It's not, okay, what are we going to do about it? It's, how can I advance my domestic pre-existing policy concerns by using the club of terrorist financing against people I personally dislike? When the reality appears that crypto is not a meaningful way that these entities get financed. It just doesn't appear to be the case. Not to mention that Hamas specifically said they don't want Bitcoin donations because they're too traceable. Like, that's the status quo. They're on record saying that.
It's we're really starting to find out who our enemies are here. So, Stephen Lynch would sign anything from Elizabeth Warren. If Elizabeth Warren told Stephen Lynch that he needed to just walk out of his door in South Boston, keep on walking into the ocean, he wouldn't think twice. He'd just do whatever she said. But, you have someone like Jake Auchincloss, who's a really smart guy, also in the Boston area. He signed this thing. It's like, do you do any research, dude? Like, what is going on here? How are these people just blindly following Elizabeth Warren?
Yeah, think for yourself, guys. I mean, I'm very disappointed in the WSJ itself. I demand a retraction. I'm officially demanding a retraction. Look, the press hasn't covered itself in glory these past few days, but this story was huge. The crypto finances Hamas story was huge because it lets you take this incredibly emotional thing and blame it on local crypto bros. You know? I mean, I can't believe it. But yeah, I think it's completely irresponsible of the WSJ to do this, clearly without meaningful fact checking.
I'm feeling that, is there a Medium post coming this weekend maybe from you?
I don't know.
I feel like we need some central place to send people to understand that this is all a total farce.
I'm upset. I'm heated about it.
As you should be. It's crazy. All right, so what else happened this week? Mark Andreessen put out the Techno Optimist Manifesto. Nothing about crypto in there, but got a lot of the tech journalists all up in a frenzy. Did you read that one?
I thought it was great. I also find it funny that a lot of the journalists that report, quote unquote, on tech hate tech. How's that like even allowed? Like if you look at TechCrunch, everyone that works at TechCrunch hates technology. Why do they work for TechCrunch? Why do they have that job? Why are they professional haters? Why don't you go do something else? Go report on something that you like.
Completely
like, what
inexplicable.
are they achieving? What are they achieving by doing that?
Yeah,
I can't stand this paradigm where it's someone that's the reporter on a certain beat is there because they're a full-time professional critic of the beat. That's not journalism. Yeah.
Nathaniel Popper. So the other thing that was kind of interesting this week, so BlackRock CEO Larry Fink was talking on Fox Business, and I noticed that he always says crypto, but that's because he doesn't think he can say Bitcoin. Did you catch that part?
Well, so is it like Voldemort? What's going to happen if he says it?
Well, he says, I have to say crypto because we have a Bitcoin ETF application on file. So I think he's just treating it as if they're securities, but whatever. So he was calling crypto a flight to quality. So they were asking him about the big run up on the rumor that BlackRock got approved. He said, I don't think this is like a rumor situation. I think there's just a flight to quality happening. So this guy is turning into a great marketing person for the movement here.
Yeah. I mean, BlackRock struggled with Bitcoin for many years. They struggled around the ESG piece. And, I don't know what changed. Did Bitcoin's ESG footprint change? Or did BlackRock's view on ESG change?
Well, I think the whole state of Texas trying to shut out BlackRock might have had a little impact on their ESG views, don't you think?
Saudi Aramco joining the board probably helped.
Probably did help. All of a sudden, you don't hear as much about it.
You don't. But also, the reality of Bitcoin mining is that it's, pretty useful to the modern grid in transition. So the reality on the ground is also changing.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's quite different.
I'm very glad we have Larry Fink as an ally. You don't want him as an enemy. I'll take it.
No, you don't. No, you don't want that guy. He's one of the top 10 most powerful people in the country. It's great to have him on the team. All right, so if you read one thing this weekend, I would recommend reading this CNBC article. It's called The Secret Life of Jimmy Zong, who stole and lost more than $3 billion. And this is the guy who hacked the Silk Road. And he had all of those coins in his house. He was slowly kind of using them over time. And he was living lavishly down in Atlanta, Georgia. He had a big lake house with a stripper pole. He was flying friends on private jets everywhere. Never had a job. And everyone was kind of like, oh, well, he tells us he was early in crypto. He was, in fact, early in crypto. He was 2009 in the Bitcoin space, which is crazy. And he got taken down by one of these on-chain forensics. So back to our Elizabeth Warren comment here. Only like the worst criminals these days are using public blockchains to do their crimes because everything you've ever done is traceable forever on the Bitcoin network. And so it caught up to him. These IRS investigators are no joke. They're very talented, and they have software from Chainalysis and others behind them. And they caught this guy. And from what I understand, he's only been sentenced to a year in jail. It's like maybe a year and a half in jail, which seems like not that much time when you look at it as $3 billion. his lawyer was arguing, well, look, if you caught this guy, he didn't really damage anything with the U.S. government. I mean, at the time, that was worth like $60,000, the Bitcoin. So the government would have taken that $60,000 and they would have sold it off and, made $60,000. Now the U.S. government, since Jimmy did us a solid here, has $3 billion worth of Bitcoin. So let's get him out of jail a little bit early, was their argument.
So this is a very strange situation because he got caught because he reported a theft against him. Am I getting that right?
So yeah, it's a weird story. And so he reported a theft against him, and there was he had it on camera. So someone came into his house. I'm wondering if it was maybe him. They never caught him, but somehow word got out that had happened. But simultaneously, I think the IRS had identified some movement in the Silk Road coins that went to an exchange, and they subpoenaed the exchange, and the exchange was able to say it was Jimmy Zhang who controlled the address. And so I don't think it was purely the theft of the Bitcoins that Jimmy had reported that got him caught. It was really the on-chain sleuthing, but they triangulated it. And so the IRS agent came to the house and said, look, we're here to help you with the case that you reported. Show us around. And in doing that, they were able to find all sorts of interesting things. They later came back with a search warrant, and they found all these computers. So this was before hardware wallets. So he was storing the stuff on like offline air-gapped computers.
Yeah. I mean, credit to him for actually, because like most people that steal a large amount of Bitcoin never manage to spend it, right? Because they would feel that would likely dox them. Yeah. He actually did spend some amount of it to his credit, I guess. I don't know if that's the right thing to say. The funniest part of the CNBC article was where the body cam footage from, I guess, the officers that investigated the crime or something. The body cam footage shows that in his house he had a metal case with $1 million in cash in it, which was used to impress a woman. And the officer asks him, did it work? And he says, nope. And the officer says, it never does.
It's like, oh man.
This poor guy, he just wanted love, man. He just wanted love.
Yeah, he seems like a very I don't know.
Seemed like an affable gentleman.
Yeah, I don't have like malicious feelings towards this guy in the way that I would have towards, like the guy from FTX who stole, $10 billion.
He just liked to party.
And he really liked to party. Georgia football fan.
Yeah, he liked to, go to the bar and take his friends on nice trips. By all accounts, a good guy.
Yeah, Jimmy Zhang. Well, he's going to get out of jail in a year and a half. He's going to have no money, but he's going to have a lot of skills. I mean, this guy is the type of guy who is sophisticated enough. They say that he doesn't even have a mouse. Can you believe that? He knows all the shortcuts.
He had Casacius coins. That was part of the evidence.
Yeah. I mean, this guy can definitely work on like an L2 or something. This guy will be totally fine.
No, he'll land on his feet.
So that was a good read for the weekend. Man, what a week. This just feels like every week that we have an Elizabeth Warren piece is just, it's just going to be, the next 48 hours are just going to be insane.
That would put me in a terrible mood. That was the worst.
Yeah. So not happy about it.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it for now.
All right. We have a busy slate of podcasts coming. We've really upped our game here on the interviews, so we're going to keep them coming. Have at least one, maybe two next week. So we'll keep it rolling. Have a safe and healthy weekend. We'll see you on Monday.